So to tell you the truth, that song and my shirt, that's the talk. You're excused. Yes, it is entitled True Colors. So, how many of you know when and why Pride Month started? One hand, two hands, three, four, five. Okay. See, this June is known as Pride Month. So I'm going to give you just a brief history of Pride, since it is happening, and it is happening big time here in Santa Fe. So Pride Month is an annual celebration of the many contributions by the LBGTQ plus community to history and society and cultures. In most places, it is celebrated in the month of June in commemoration of its roots. And some of you may know in the Stonewall riots of June 1969. Back in the early 1900s, there was efforts made to have rights given to the LBGTQ community. However, they were still being denied until one night in June in 1969, the gay rights movement took a major step forward with these violent riots that happened in New York City. So as the common practice was then, the New York Police Department would occasionally raid the bars and restaurants where gays and lesbians were known to gather. And this occurred on June 28, 1969, when the NYPD raided the Stonewall Inn, a bar in Greenwich City neighborhood of Manhattan. When the police aggressively dragged patrons and employees out of the bar, several people fought back, and a growing crowd of angry locals gathered in the streets. These confrontations escalated and sparked 6 days of protests and violent clashes with the NYPD outside of the Stonewall Inn on Christopher Street. By the time Stonewall riots ended on July 2nd, 1969, the gay rights movement went from being a fringe issue, largely ignored by politicians and the media, to front-page news worldwide. 1 year later, during the anniversary of the Stonewall riots, activists in New York City marched through the streets of Manhattan in commemoration of the uprising. The march was named the Christopher Street Liberation Day March, and after a while, it just became the Gay Pride Parade. This march took place on June 28, 1970, and was considered the country's first gay pride parade. So there was about 3,000 to 5,000 participants. It stretched 51 blocks. Marches and parades also took place in Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Chicago. June of 2000, President Bill Clinton officially designated June as Gay and Lesbian Pride Month. A more inclusive name was chosen in 2009 by President Barack Obama, the Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Pride Month. So the origins of gay pride were also honored by Obama in 2016, and he created the Stonewall National Monument, a 7.7 acre around the Stonewall Inn where the modern gay rights movement began. Now, did you learn anything? A few of you? Yes, okay, great. So there is a Pride celebration every year in Pride on the Plaza, that's what it's called, and it is taking place on Saturday, June 29th from about 10 until 4, and we will have a booth there. If there's anybody that has volunteered to be part of that booth celebration, I'm going to invite you to stand so we can just recognize you and give you a thank you. Thank you. I unfortunately ended up having a 10-year family reunion on that day, and I was like, Spirit, it didn't work. Did you consult me on having it when we're... Anyway, it's all good because we are a community-centric place. You don't need the minister to have a good time and to really support the LBGTQ community, right? So I want to thank you personally. We filled up all the spots. Even if you didn't sign up, please come to the festival, the Pride on the Plaza, and just enjoy the music, the entertainment, see what's happening, and support the LBGTQ community. Some of the biggest issues of our day happen to be the hatred, the violence, and the discrimination towards the LBGTQ community, and especially the transgender folks. Last year was actually in June of last year, the Human Rights Campaign declared a state of emergency for LBGTQ people. And there was at least 417 anti-LBGTQ bills passed that were introduced, denying rights and health, discrimination. And I'm like, why? What is up with that? Why aren't people just allowed to be who they are? You know, it just doesn't, it's ridiculous. Now, some of you might be, what is transgender? You might not know, and part of what we do here at Unity in our mission statement is raise consciousness. So I'm here to share some little things that you may or may not know. A transgender person is someone whose gender identity, or their gender expression does not match the sex that they were assigned at birth, okay? Can you imagine what it must be like to not feel comfortable in your body? And then people hate you for that. I mean, really, what is up? Why can't people just be who they are and be, it's cool, you're right? Non-binary, that's another word that people may not understand. And that is referring to someone who does not identify as either male or female, doesn't relate to he, him, or she, her. Now, how many of you heard that I said my pronouns are she, her, and they, them at the beginning? Yes, I've been saying that for a few months now, and I'm going to share with you why I do that. First of all, I want to be honest, and I want to be real, and I want to show anybody that is here that I have an awareness of gender identity, right? And people feel safe. I've had people say they felt safe when they walked in and they heard, because we have gender awareness. I have gender awareness. And so why she, her? Well, I am born in a female body, and so I identify in the she, her. But I also identify as they, them, because the truth is, I don't really identify as a girl or a boy. And here's an example, shopping. I go to the women's department. That doesn't work for me. The men's department a little more, but there is no place for a they, them section. Okay, that's it. I'm not girly, and I have a little more on that masculine energy, but that's why I am comfortable saying they, them, because I don't identify with either. I'm a mixture, and that's what that's about. So I did want to give you that education today. Because I've been saying it for a while, and I only had one person ask me, why do you do that? Today's the revealment. So let's talk about discrimination. How many of you have ever felt or been discriminated against regarding perhaps your age, maybe a physical limitation, gender? How about sexual orientation, family status, race, ethnicity, right? Have any of you ever experienced, most of us have on some level felt that discrimination. And what is the definition of discrimination? The unjust or prejudicial treatment of different categories of people or things, especially on the grounds of race, gender, age, or sexual orientation. Why does discrimination happen? Well, the human brain naturally puts things into categories to better understand the world, right? So as we're growing up, young children are taught there's a boy and there's a girl. However, the values are installed and taught by parents, by society. The values, oh, I'm a boy because I have a penis, right? Or I'm a girl because I don't have one. You know, there are the distinctions in a body, but what is a girl wear versus a boy? And it's not okay to play with dolls if you're a boy or wear a skirt. You know, it's like, so all of that is taught. And a lot of discrimination is just basic misinformation, misunderstandings, and fear. And I got this idea back when I was doing a small group at Cal State Fullerton, and the homophobia. You know, homosexuality is just part of the world. It's natural. But homophobia is learned, okay? People don't hate people for any reason because they are taught that. But I was in this small group, and what I understood was this person was having problems with gays. And I thought, what is behind that? And I believe it's fear. Fear that I could actually have feelings or fantasies or thoughts about somebody of my same gender. That is really not going to be okay. So I'm going to try and kill anything that is in me that I can't handle. I can't handle that in you because I can't handle that possibility in me. Does that make sense? It's like, oh. So those that are most homophobic are probably the most homosexual beings in the world. Just possibly. I'm just saying, they're usually very closeted and they can't handle it, so they want to kill what they don't want in themselves. Kill what you don't know. So it hurts my heart to realize that there is so much discrimination, and whether you've experienced that or not, I think we all have an understanding. And would it be okay if I share a little bit of my story? Anybody say no? We'll shorten it up. So the first time I heard the word gay or lesbian was I was a freshman in high school, and it was gay and lesbian. And stay away from Roberta and Terry. I'm like, okay, I'm curious about that. And then at age 17, in 1977, I fell in love. I fell in love with Marcia. And it was such a sweet and innocent and unconditionally loving relationship. We went to different high schools. We had this wonderful romantic summer together in all of our sweetness and innocence and lovingness. And then we go to our separate schools. Well, I'm in the locker room, and I'm feeling the cold shoulder from my other teammates for volleyball and such. It was like I was getting the cold shoulder. And I figured it was because I was in this relationship with Marcia. So from that peer pressure, I ended up breaking up with her, but I only wanted to be back with her. It was a challenging time for me to go through that. Now, the good news is that Marcia lives in Florida, and we are still friends after 47 years. We are still connected and still have that caring for each other. So that's pretty sweet. So moving along in time, I go away to a Christian college at age 19 or 20. Here I am, a party girl, coming into this very Christian organization, and I end up having a crush on a couple of the girls in my dorm. I'm thinking, this is not good, you know, because the Bible, I think, says if you think it, you've done it, and I'm like, I'm screwed, right? But I wanted to say, what do I do with my feelings? I can't express them, but suppressing them or repressing them doesn't sound pretty healthy either. Never got an answer to that. Left Taylor University in Upland, Indiana, went home, worked at my dad's store, and promptly fell in love with Betty, and blew off school. I was good, right? So I'm just going to tell you pieces and parts, but I blew off school, my call into ministry. However, Spirit stays with me. stays with you whether you are aware of it or not. It's just like your breath. It's there without you even being aware of it. So here I am after a couple 2-year relationships, they didn't work. So I realized at age 25, I don't know what I'm doing. So the God of my understanding, God, I give you my relationships. You can take over. In fact, if you want to make me straight, you have my permission. The answer came back. Spirit says, Liz, I love you as you are. Liz, I want you to be who you are. Liz, I need you to be who you are. Well, that was the end of that conversation. I was going to be good with who I am. So I ended up moving to California and things moved along. And then I ended up at a Church of Religious Science in Huntington Beach, California. Went there because Marianne Williamson had spoken there in '95. It was a ministry of about 1,000 people on a Sunday morning. And the minister, Reverend Mary Murray Shelton, was speaking. And she was fabulous, and people loved her, and she had been married and divorced, had a kid. One day in a Sunday service, she makes an announcement, and she said, I never thought I would fall in love with another woman, but I have. And I feel the need to be open with this community. Wow. Pretty impressive, to be honest, that she would come out in that way. Never thought she'd fall in love with another woman, but she did. And I don't know if she had fear or trepidation. I'm going to think that she might have, because you don't know how people are going to respond to your announcement. So that was pretty brave of her, right? I mean, I thought so. And I don't know if she got any negativity or not, but she continues to be an awesome minister and is out. And to be out as a openly gay or transgender person can be very scary, because there are serious things happening in our world and states. Discrimination is real. It's not something that we can take lightly, in my opinion. And that's why pride is so important. 4 things about pride is we want to stand up for the rights of all people, to be who they are, to be their true colors, and to be okay with who you love. To be in pride is to stand with pride and not shame, to be okay with yourself and have the support of allies. Pride is important because it's to respect our differences. Forget a world that everybody's the same. And the 4th one is to be visible. We're not in the closet. We're not hiding. We want to be out. Now, there are places in the world. I had a girlfriend in Carson City, and she was like, no, we're not holding hands out in public. We're not doing any public displays of affection. Well, I want to be who I am, where I am, when I am, with whoever I am, and it really bothers me that that is the way it is. You know, fear happens. So what does it take to be part of Pride or be an ally? The word is courage. It takes courage. I've been speaking to you this month about one of the 12 powers by Unity, and it's the power of strength. And in Linda Martella Whitsett's book called Divine Audacity, which talks about these 12 powers that we all have, she breaks strength into stability, which I spoke of last week, tenacity, and the 3rd one is courage. So I'm going to share with you this piece about courage. Courage is the ability to do something that frightens you, right? It's that mental or moral strength to persevere in the face of danger. Courage actually means heart. And they often think that it means being fearless or brave. Well, here's the truth. You cannot be brave or courageous unless you're scared. unless you have fear, because otherwise it's ego-based bravado, right? I'm just brave, I can. No, it's real courage is when you're afraid and you still move forward. Do you know what the greatest measure of courage is? Do you want to know? What was that? Okay. The greatest measure of courage is vulnerability. Vulnerability is not usually associated with courage or strength. Vulnerability often makes us think of someone who's weak, being hurt, open to being hurt, betrayal, or fears. Vulnerable, the definition, susceptible or open to physical or emotional attack or harm, capable of being emotionally or physically wounded. So as children, we're open and we're free, right? We're just being ourselves, our true colors. And however, as we grow and mature, we find out that the world is a hurtful place. We experience hurt, sometimes intentional, sometimes unintentional. And we also learn how to hurt others, sometimes intentional, sometimes unintentional, and sometimes just out of ignorance. So what happens is we're all vulnerable, especially as children, but we start to build barriers. Whoa, yes, we do. We learn to protect ourselves by building walls and defense mechanisms to keep ourselves safe mentally, emotionally, and physically. So I'm going to invite you to close your eyes at this time. And just take a breath. Notice what you're noticing. Knowing that you're in a safe place. The question I have for you is, where in your life have you been holding back some piece of yourself out of fear that by expressing or sharing this part of you, you risk the possibility of being misunderstood, not accepted, perhaps rejected, made fun of, or not taken seriously? Just breathe and notice what comes to mind. I believe we all have areas where we might have fear or trepidation in being fully who we are. And notice what you're feeling. Perhaps anxious, a little constricted as you think about an area that you're not fully expressed. Good. Just notice your feelings, knowing the first step in being vulnerable is to recognize that it even exists. Now breathe again. And let us tap into the great spirit that is breathing you now and always. As you breathe, get a sense of the great life force and source as your greatest power, your greatest self. That power that knows no fear and only is the power of love, here to support you in being your full, authentic, divine self. Imagine this great power of love, unconditional, within you and as you, dissolving anything that was a protection. There is only this energy of love, taking this step or action you have been afraid of up until now. Imagine yourself and see your divine self taking the step to be and share your authentic self. breathe and see yourself successfully moving through any fear that you had, taking the step and moving to the other side of being that full expression of yourself. And notice what you're feeling now. So I invite you now to just bring yourself back into the room with the awareness. Vulnerability means allowing oneself to express all feelings and thoughts, including our deepest fears, our joys, our pains, our hopes, and our dreams with others. Vulnerability is the key to true authenticity and intimacy. To fear being vulnerable is to fear being yourself. Lack of vulnerability forces us to wear a mask, hiding who we really are from those that we wish to be close to. It also leads to a life of loneliness, since it creates barriers to communicating with others about the things that really matter to us and why. We can't fix what we won't face, nor can we get the support from our loved ones if they don't know our pains or what brings us joy. As scary as it seems, by showing who you truly are and allowing yourself to feel out loud, you give your family and your friends the opportunity to love all of you. The good, the bad, the shadow, the light, every piece and particle of who you are. To love unconditionally, as Spirit is the love of unconditional love. It gives them permission as well to feel safe in the midst of your company. Brene Brown, in closing, says, vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up and to be seen when we have no control over the outcome. Vulnerability is not a weakness. It is our greatest measure of courage. It's our greatest measure of courage. So here's Liz. I know. Where's she going? Ah, the true colors coming through. Yes, it says, may the pride be with you. May we let our true colors shine through, be our authentic true selves, no matter what, no matter where, and let us have the courage and be vulnerable enough to show who we are, to be who we are, to support others in being who they are. This is me. And I thank you for being courageous and vulnerable with me. I love you.